Well, hello there. This is G Long with the Long in the Boot podcast. The podcast coming to you from the heel of the boot of Southwest Louisiana. After a long period of time off, sitting across the way, there's Deb. How you doing, Deb?
Hello. Yes, it has been a long time. 1 month.
A month.
That's
a long time.
It feels like it.
It's a bigger percentage of the life that we have left than it was 40 years ago.
Oh, wow. You're jumping right in. That's deep. Starting to get deep. Don't go deep yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's too much.
Stay in the shallow end.
Yeah, so, I forgot about the new song. I think we only used it once.
Thank you, Land and Blood, for this new theme song that we just love to death.
It took me by surprise when you played it, and I was like, oh, wait, that's richer. That's better than the last.
Yes, I have the other one up here. I could play it.
For comparison.
Yeah, but
we don't need that yet. But
we'll do that on a different day when we could
fall back when we feel like we're losing things and
when we don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, so out of practice for a month, we spent a little time trying to get things together this morning.
In fact, proof of that is that I have not yet said you can always go to the Long in the Boot page at www.longintheboot.com. The email longintheboot@gmail.com, and the ever-present phone number.
You got it. You got it written down?
I do. It's 337-502-9011. Leave a message. Who knows if I'm, feeling frisky. I may just answer that phone.
Answer that phone and
that doesn't
speak
happen
to
often.
people. No, it doesn't happen often. Actually, you usually have your phone turned down and you never hear it.
Right.
And although I don't call much when I'm out and about.
Yeah, I've learned to turn it on when you leave.
You call me a lot when I'm out.
Well, I have to check on you, make sure you're not doing anything untoward.
Would I do that now? That's not like me, sir.
But anyway,
so the family, the Longs, were all in the boot
for the last month.
For the last month, we had a nice trip to Galveston.
My son, who is serving elsewhere, got to come in for 30 days.
That was nice, and his family came down.
And his frantic attempts to get back to base on time.
Oh, yeah,
somehow he pulled it off. I don't know. It's a long ways.
It is a long way. And many obstacles were thrown in his way.
Yeah, by the way, if you're going to the Netherlands, you need like 4 pages of stuff.
Of documents. having a printed copy of your clean test.
Your negative COVID test isn't enough. And you still have to have exemptions to not go into a quarantine, and it's
8 by 10 color glossies and a file folder full of documents and
with lots of circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to end up on the Group W bench.
Yeah, it could happen.
All right, so we played the Mimi and Pawpaw role for a month.
We have been Mimi and Pawpaw,
and that's been interesting.
Not G Long and Deb.
Yeah,
for the past month, and yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting shift because we've been alone here for 10 years.
Right. And
we don't normally get to see our grandkids.
Yeah, it's just a weird role reversal kind of thing.
Yeah, we found a balance. You settle in after a while, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, it was. It was cool.
Wonderful. All right.
My grandkids are good people.
They're unique human beings.
Oh, their parents are all right, too.
Oh, yeah. Mom and Dad.
They're not listening, so who cares?
We don't have to be mom and dad to our grown children
They
anymore.
don't listen to us. They don't support us in any way. They're so mean. Okay.
Really?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was just playing.
All right, and so our 1 year anniversary show. Let's
it
bring
is.
That up.
Yeah, ta-da! I should have had special anniversary music.
Oh, what would that sound like?
Well, if I could pay the music rights, it would be "Happy Anniversary, Baby."
Oh, I got you on my mind.
Yeah, see, I can do that legally.
Okay, because you don't do it as well as the original.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Or without music.
People would recognize that. Yeah, you'd be stealing their...
But I encourage you to go somewhere and listen to that song. It's a great song.
And think about us. Okay, well, that's
all right,
a little
so anyway,
odd,
a year,
we're not doing that.
Let's go back, shall we?
Okay.
And a year ago, we decided to do the podcast for no coherent reason.
No, don't.
It was,
You've already
I
told
wanted to
the
do it.
story.
Yeah, I
You
told the
wanted
story.
Yes, you wanted to do it. Don't
Listen to a past episode if you'd like to hear the exciting story of
how you
began a podcast. Yeah, it's riveting.
Well,
so anyway, we talked about, got into, Deb interrupted me. I was trying to do a podcast by myself because I'd had an issue. I had a recording issue with my previous partner in the podcast.
And you all, you just, sometimes you forget to push the button and.
No, this time was an actual sound error.
Oh, a sound
error. It was a
error.
horrible
That's
crackling
right.
noise
All
that I could not get rid of. Anyway, so Deb interrupted me, and then we talked about it was a little bit about cancel culture and a little bit about Middleton.
Yeah, that's hard not to talk
about. Talked about LSU and General Middleton and how they were ripping his name off the library at LSU, an event that I'm still in disagreement with.
and yet continues to happen in numerous ways.
Well, it took away
country.
again, the idea in my mind of America has always been, if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of the people that helped found our country may have had checkered pasts in some cases. Yes. But there's a thing about personal redemption. I don't think you should be held accountable. I mean, how far do we do this? If somebody says something that 30 years ago was incorrect, is it right to hold that against them?
Well, I think
all these years later, and try to ruin their lives.
I think somehow society wants them to have a consequence for their actions, even if they're past now, even if they're dead.
It's not really society's right.
Well, I think there are small groups of people who have come together and share this idea that we're going to punish him now for what he said or did back then, even though he was a creature of that time.
And even though if they're still alive, maybe they've already apologized for it or
made some kind. Okay, well, you know what?
That was the first episode
that we had. Yes.
So here we are a year later.
Many words and discussions later.
And we were discussing the other day the use of euphemisms.
Yeah, how colorful and are they actually things that we?
Well, just the idea of them. There's so many.
Yes, and they're positive and negative.
And it created a rabbit hole that just went on and on. And it kind of circled back to what we talked about a year ago.
Yes, it did. And it also stemmed from a story that we read, each of us individually, and then we talked about it later, a recent story from Massachusetts, Brandeis University.
Yeah, that's where it started.
That's where we really kind of took off on this idea. They have a list of oppressive words that they are discouraging people from using.
Yeah, well, oppressive language.
Yeah, in 2015, they came up with the Prevention Advocacy Resource Center on their campus and the PARC.
Yeah.
The Park. Okay. Park. And Park had this job of discouraging euphemisms and vagueness in the language. If it doesn't say what you mean, you should not use it. Well, actually,
all about being correct with their language, but we're going to hide it behind an
acronym. Is that what acronyms do?
That's another show.
No, I don't think we should even start with that idea.
Acronyms are a whole different show.
So one of the things that made their list was killing it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Killing it. Don't use that. Killing it is dealing with murder, and why would you do that to somebody if you want to say
it's violent language.
If you want to say they're doing something well, you don't need to equate what they did to murder.
Right.
But when you say it, the tone is such that, man, he's killing it.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's positive. That's positive. The hearer knows it's positive. Ooh, but if you can't hear, would your body language indicate it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe that's what this is all about. We don't.
Well, maybe we should go back to what euphemisms were, where they started, and bring ourselves back around to Brandeis University.
All right. Well, the first recorded in print use of that word is in 1681, and it was the word criminy.
And what was criminy about?
Well, criminy was about people not using the Lord's name in vain. It replaces Christ.
Ah, yes. There we go.
So, because words have power. You remember that, right? We talked about that at one point.
It's in the Ten Commandments.
It is. Do not use the word,
right?
the Lord's name in vain. So in order to avoid doing that, you replace it with a nicer, softer, more palatable word or phrase.
Yeah, because people long ago thought that words had actual power. In fact, the Bible actually says a word, that God spoke, and
and from that word, something
that
happened.
Word.
Let there be light.
There's a home, right? That's the sound supposedly at the creation
either
of the universe.
an OM or a AUM.
And so words had actual power. That's the third commandment's about. The idea was using God in a form of a curse.
Yes.
So we can't say it.
I can say from sitting in several yoga classes where chanting is going on, it is a feeling. It's a powerful feeling, just the reverberation and the sound of the words. So they even, many cultures lend credence to that idea that words have power. And all cultures have euphemisms.
Right. They're not
because
just
we all have different taboos.
English. You might think that English is the only language that really had.
No, not even. Not even. And it goes way back.
But there's a connection in all cultures what euphemisms are used or were used originally
initially for
words of
sacred
power,
words, because taboo words.
Or taboo.
Yes. The Polynesians came up with the word taboo, and that's it exactly, sacred.
Things we won't talk about.
No.
But we have to talk about them. Well, then we need to say it in a different way.
Yeah. Well, you're the unwashed masses. Oh, look, there's a nice euphemism for the peasants, right? The unwashed masses.
Right.
So I'm not calling you a peasant.
So criminy. Oh.
Yes, criminy. Christ. Okay. So
crikey.
Strangely enough, on the show Hey Arnold, Helga's catchword, her father's catchword too, is criminy, right?
I remember that cartoon.
You remember that cartoon?
I do.
A vulgar exclamation of astonishment. Now it's somewhat archaic, of course, but I use the word. I say, criminy all the time. In fact, I say many of these things. So mild euphemism for Christ, crikey, cracky, cripes, Christmas or Christmas, Christopher Columbus, and G. Rover Cripes.
Yeah, I like the last one.
What, G. Rover Cripes?
G. Rover Cripes.
And I use crikey, and I say these words. Oh, criminy, who's yonder? And that was in 1681. But then they're also serious in a 1700s quotation cited the line, murdered my brother. Oh, criminy. Oh, Christ. Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, that was one that was a surprise.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Jiminy Cricket did not originate with Disney.
But they chose that for his name. So did they know that was a euphemism for Jesus Christ? You think that was an innocent mistake? I think not, sir.
Well, there had to be an original. There had to be a point where
Jiminy
the first
Cricket
person
was Jesus Christ.
Well, but the first
representing. I'm sorry. Please ignore my implication there that
he was.
He literally was.
I don't think.
I hope my audience wouldn't.
I don't think any
there.
of our listeners suddenly assumed that you meant that Jiminy Crickets was in fact our Lord and Savior.
Okay, I certainly hope not. And if you do, probably turn us off right now and go away.
It would have been a much simpler job, though, to make it. All
right. So, enough of that foolishness. But yes, culturally, it happens all over the world.
I liked with the word criminy, the thing it's first where it came from, Jesus Domine.
Yes.
Jesus Lord.
Jesus Lord.
So we got to come up with something else.
But you don't utter Gemini. That. Yeah, Gemini.
Yeah, and they was Lord Byron. Criminy, Jiminy, did you ever hear such a piminy story as Leigh Hunt's Rimini?
He was high.
Yeah, probably so. On opium. Almost guaranteed.
Oh, well. And then Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Oh, Jiminy is him, exclaimed both boys.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
Jesus, it's him.
So we got a bunch of old ones that are, again, just always religious in nature.
Yes.
But we haven't got around to the other fun ones about like body parts and body functions.
No, these are all still early on and just taking the place of religious ones. So you're not sinning. You're not violating one of the 10 Commandments. And man, I use these gadzooks and zounds.
Oh, zounds! I explained in my class that it meant God's wounds.
Yes,
and that was actually something you weren't supposed to say. So that means that people were walking around saying it.
Yes, and then your implication is I came across a question that somebody said, "Are euphemisms sinful?" To say it. And so apparently, yes, you're uttering, your intention is, to Jesus or God's wounds, whatever you're saying. So even by using the euphemism, you've still sinned.
Those of you who are out there who say things like zounds, God knows what you
mean. That was the point of the question, right? I don't know who on the Book of Knowledge answered that person that they are sinful because you're still doing it. What Jimmy Carter said, I've lusted in my heart, right? So he's still taking on that sin. He says, I agree that even just thinking about it is sinful in itself. So using the word, even in place of, golly gosh.
Struth.
Sometimes another word is substituted for the forbidden, and we get expressions like, for Pete's sakes, for the love of Mike, for crying out loud.
For Pete's sake. I always wondered who Pete was.
And we know
Jesus.
We know who Mike is now, right? He's a Sasol Mike.
And yet no one ever uses
Oh, wait. Sasol Mike is a Southwest Louisiana joke.
Yeah.
Kinda. Oh, okay. Yeah, I won't go outside of our area. Sorry about that, y'all. Can I say y'all? Am I being inclusive?
You are, actually.
Am I being gender? We got to go. Oh, you'll go back to that.
Yeah,
story.
We'll circle back to Brandeis because that's a good way to get towards the end of it.
Back to the beginning.
Yeah, because we want to talk about some other fun euphemisms. But the problem is, as we go towards the Brandeis list, euphemisms start to take on a more, sinister tone.
Well, they turn to dis-euphemism.
Well, yeah, but the first one, some of the ones from, that we use on a regular basis, I don't think there's any kind of problem with them. Man, we have so many different euphemisms.
Well, you're talking about just the ones we individually choose to make depending on the company we're in. Social awareness. I mean, knowing the group that you're with, there's nothing wrong with tempering your language in order to, to not talk about, people don't like to talk about death.
Right.
We don't talk about the C word.
You mean cancer?
Yeah, we whisper it. I mean, it's a joke that we make, but that was real for a very long time. You didn't want to say the word out loud because then the word has power. You say it, you're going to give somebody cancer, or you're going to get cancer. That's crazy, but
if you say Voldemort, he's going to show up, is what you're saying.
Yes. Don't utter his name. His name shall not be spoken.
But when it is, it's done.
He does show up.
Of course he does.
Self-fulfilling prophecy or power in the word?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know.
So euphemisms mostly were for religious and taboo words, which also included body functions.
Yes,
and sex. Oh, man. The number of euphemisms for sex could take hours.
Well, it can be in the millions, I would think, because it can be anything. Your intonation, the way your tone when you say it. Hey, baby, did you push the button?
Did you push the button?
I ask you before we start the show every time, baby, did you push the button? And it depends on how I say it, right? The tone is what's going to. So anything can be.
And the crowd you're with again.
And the crowd you're with. Social awareness.
So euphemisms are crowd dependent.
Situational.
Like ethics.
Like ethics. Wow. We are horrible people.
That's it. We're just horrible.
We're here trying to sort out the complexities of being human in this time period.
In this time period where things can, the political life and the social life, they have become fraught with peril for many people.
Yes.
Because they said something, even in a euphemism, that somebody still took offense at.
What if that poor soul just has a limited vocabulary?
Well, exactly. You can't keep up on everything. Things are changing rapidly today.
We're going to need a chip.
But the problem with it is with the language itself. When we realized that we could use euphemisms in a different way. So we've got a couple clips. The first one's a little long, but it's George Carlin.
Yeah, because we're children of the 70s.
Right. It's George Carlin, the comedian, the premier comedian, talking about the use of euphemisms. And now here's the thing. This is from 30 years ago.
That's it? 30?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were.
It was 1990.
Okay, 1990.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, but listening to him all through the 70s, he was building toward this kind of comedy. You know, you had people like Lenny Bruce before him, and so often talking about what's happening in society. So a forerunner of what we're dealing with now.
Euphemisms originally, yeah, okay, fine, but what can be done with euphemisms is really kind of the point.
In the First World War, that condition was called shell shock. Simple, honest, direct language, 2 syllables, shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. That was 70 years ago. Then a whole generation went by, and the Second World War came along, and the very same combat condition was called battle fatigue. 4 syllables now. Takes a little longer to say. Doesn't seem to hurt as much. Fatigue is a nicer word than shock. Shell shock. Battle fatigue. Then we had the war in Korea, 1950. Madison Avenue was riding high by that time, and the very same combat condition was called operational exhaustion. Hey, we're up to 8 syllables now. And the humanity has been squeezed completely out of the phrase. It's totally sterile now. Operational exhaustion. Sounds like something that might happen to your car. Then, of course, came the war in Vietnam, which has only been over for about 16 or 17 years. And thanks to the lies and deceit surrounding that war, I guess it's no surprise that the very same condition was called post-traumatic stress disorder. Still 8 syllables, but we've added a hyphen. And the pain is completely buried under jargon. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll bet you if we'd have still been calling it shell shock, some of those Vietnam veterans might have gotten the attention they needed at the time.
Reduced it to an acronym. To just an acronym.
And now it can be not just people coming back from combat.
No. Now it can apply
survivors
to
of abuse.
Survivors of any. Oh, wait. I don't know that we're allowed to use the word survivors.
Oh, I think that's incorrect. I've got a list somewhere around there. I think it might be incorrect.
That's just crazy. Yeah. So does that diminish it for the soldier, for somebody experiencing war, or is it appropriate to?
Well, is it any different?
Is it appropriate to equate it? Yeah, exactly. Is it any different? Somebody who, look, that apartment collapse in Miami. That's what's happening in society right now, is watching that unfold, and the terror that creates in everybody who lives in a building like that.
Oh, absolutely.
To go to bed at night and now not feel comfortable that.
Well, it's still in the end, it's a taboo subject that we've created a taboo about. When he talks about the war,
and fighting war, and dealing with death
by saying PTSD, one, we've quantified it with a psychiatric term.
Yes. So that cleans it up too. That sterilizes it.
It sterilizes it. There's no blood. There's no physical
because that's
trauma.
Uncomfortable.
It's PTSD.
Exactly.
And it allows us, people who haven't had to deal with that, to just kind of marginalize it in our heads.
Yeah.
It makes it more comfortable for us.
Yeah. I mean, we grew up in the 70s when Vietnam images were suddenly being shown on television, and that just hadn't happened before. Letting the American citizens see images, but even those were cleaned up.
Sure.
Now look at what we see on TV.
Oh, constantly.
Oh, yeah. So we've become anesthetized to those images.
Oh, sure. We
to a degree to deal with it. You have to.
So we create taboos, and we create things that are uncomfortable to talk about.
And we come up with new phrases.
We come with new phrases that everybody knows means the thing that's uncomfortable.
Yes.
But somehow mentally we can rationalize that and say, well, it's okay.
It's acceptable.
No, not for everybody.
No, not for everybody.
There are people who get upset. Well, I'll use the word retarded just as
like
that
slowed
word.
Growth. That's what the word means.
Originally, that was created as a good thing, because what they were calling people who had learning disabilities were morons or imbeciles. And people said, well, that's not comfortable.
No,
That's
they recognized that was an inappropriate.
So they said they were mentally retarded. And people went, okay. And that's the word that was around for the longest time.
Yeah.
And now we have to go another step. Retarded became uncomfortable for people to hear, especially if they had to deal with people who suffered from a mental handicap.
Yeah, a mental or physical handicap.
And so they said, we don't like that word, and on to the next thing, which is developmentally disabled. You know what I mean?
Yes. So somewhere along the development.
But a large enough group of people became uncomfortable with the word retarded.
And that's what changes society.
And then society and culturally, we want them to feel better.
Yeah. So we continue creating new euphemisms
and
then the other words become archaic and eventually go away.
Sometimes hurtful.
Yeah.
For people.
For some people.
If you have that, mindset. I personally, words are just words. I can't.
So are you triggered by words?
No.
Because we like to use that now. Everything is a trigger.
No, I'm not.
I'm not either.
When we were growing up, they had that stupid little poem, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Well, at some point along the way, without being consulted whatsoever, they decided to change it.
Maybe so.
That words are, in fact, harmful.
So we go back to then, again, in the 70s and how companies were. We've been talking a lot about companies coming up with social...
They're creating scores.
Yes,
to make sure they're socially acceptable and doing socially acceptable things and not doing horrible, nasty things.
Yeah. So
like
what does your company represent? Yes. What does your company represent?
Trying to become carbon neutral.
Exactly. So in the course of that discussion,
which was part of the look at euphemisms, weirdly enough.
Yeah, actually it was. The Arm & Hammer company had a jingle, and that jingle was meant at the time to be inclusive.
Which one?
The Arm & Hammer.
No, Armor.
Armor. Yeah. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Arm & Hammer.
Sorry, Arm & Hammer. I don't know.
Well, now that we say that.
What does Arm & Hammer represent?
Look at the label. It's a big, giant man's arm with a hammer.
Yeah.
That's problematic.
I think that's got a violent tendency to it.
God,
so what are they crushing?
Women can't lift hammers?
Yeah. Nothing get done here in this house if I couldn't lift a hammer.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's still on their label, actually.
And a chainsaw and an axe.
Oh, yeah. It's too hot. I don't want to do it.
Okay, so back armor. Yes, armor. And I'm almost sorry that we're going to play this for our audience because it's going to get stuck in your head.
Well, I had an order, and now you're asking me to play something, and it might be out of order.
Oh, no.
Well,
here we go.
Here we go. And if it doesn't work, you'll never know because I'll just cut it out and fix it.
Okay.
Hot dogs, Armor hot dogs.
What kind of kids eat Armor hot dogs?
Fat kids, skinny kids, kids who climb on rocks.
Top kids, sissy kids, even kids with chicken pox love hot dogs.
Armor hot dogs.
The dog kids love to ride.
There you go. Armor hot dogs.
I know. For all kids, fat kids, skinny kids.
Kids who climb on rocks.
Tough kids, sissy kids.
Wow.
And even the ones that went to the chickenpox party. Because I went to a chickenpox party.
Yeah, I did too. Well, we didn't. It wasn't a party. We just kept
it was a slumber party so that we'd all
disease.
just share our chickenpox and
Everybody
get it over with. We
but,
need to do it all at one time.
Yeah, but don't give them aspirin. Hot dogs, fine. Aspirin's new.
Yeah. So, but armor.
But fat kids, think about it. even fat kids can eat hot dogs.
But then we talked about the video that goes along with it, which is a little
second
creepy.
Video.
The second video. The first one is the
first
Pied
video is
Piper.
a bunch of kids like the Pied. It's disturbing too.
It is disturbing.
There's a guy in a white suit that works like at a soda fountain.
He looks like the good humor guy.
A soda fountain is a place where people used to go get ice cream products. Young kids.
No, good humor ice cream man.
Let me tell you what a soda fountain was.
You soda jerk.
I'm a soda jerk. Worked behind the counter.
We couldn't say that either.
Not anymore.
All right. Oh, I forgot about the soda jerk.
Anyway, it was a bunch of kids following a hot dog vendor around like he was some kind of Pied Piper.
Handing out wieners.
I'm assuming he murdered them all later by luring them with hot dogs.
No, I'm sure not. Okay, so there was the second one.
Candy's got nothing on hot dogs.
You need protein.
Oh.
Thank you.
Anyway, so in the second video, though, the second commercial that they ran, the second series in the late 60s, early 70s, which is the one I remember.
Yeah.
It's a hot dog vendor, again, leading kids, but he leads them into the gigantic, garish, smiling mouth of a clown, and they go through a fun house while singing this demented song.
We all eat hot dogs down here.
But when they said
fat kids,
it was actually just a normal sized kid
Yeah.
standing in front of one of those goofy mirrors.
which made him fat.
Which made
so
him
he
fat,
really
and then they
wasn't
reversed
fat.
it.
So
they
it's
reversed
not,
it with another kid for this skinny kid.
It's not weightism, guys. It wasn't weightism.
Right.
Yeah.
And they didn't show
that's
tough and sissy. They just left that out altogether.
No, but they put it in there.
Well, what's a
and we
sissy
know
kid?
what the implication is.
Sissy kids? Sissy kids.
You know
but
what they're
that's not
implying.
gender specific. So you could have tough girls and sissy girls. Is that
tomboys? Okay? Well, they were.
I'm sure tomboys is a no-no.
They were being inclusive.
Tomboys is.
Or they
right
thought
out.
they thought they were.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they were advancing their line of thought, saying, when we say fat kids, some people might get affected. So how about we stick
not
a skinny
then,
kid in front of a mirror?
Or maybe more so then, because there really weren't a lot of fat or obese children at that time. I mean, I was chunky. Yeah, comparatively, I was chunky.
Well, and it was still perfectly acceptable.
You were definitely
to totally
not accepted to
anybody
be.
Who was overweight.
Oh yeah, I was bullied for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was fat when I was little too.
Yeah, and I was short. I'm short. I'm short now. I was short then. It's.
Oh yeah, that's why you'd go to the husky section for pants.
We didn't really have that.
But there you go.
I didn't really have that.
Oh, it's the fat kids' clothes.
No, I had to wear older women's stuff because they didn't have juniors for husky girls. And then the Dusty Barbie doll came out, and she was athletic.
Right.
Athletic.
So anyway, we couldn't do that. That commercial's right out.
No, Armour would be apologizing all over. Well, I wouldn't think they'd put it out there, but yet companies still sometimes surprise me and do stupid crap. Yeah.
Rich kids, poor kids. How long could you hang on that song? Just keep coming with different versions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trans kids.
Yeah. Ooh. Maybe Armour.
Oh, Armour, you need to redo it. Maybe we need to do it for Armour.
Coming from the Long and Long Consulting Group.
Maybe we'll work on that. I don't know.
You can call us. We'll explain what we're saying.
To be an inclusive, completely inclusive commercial.
Man, it's hard though because they keep adding syllables. You notice a lot of these euphemisms that
isms.
take the place of
things. Yeah. No, it says postmodern society produces a multitude of euphemisms because there's new power to the production. It's political correctness and all of the isms, starting from ableism going all the way to weightism, right?
Wait, you mean there's a political agenda with some of this? No.
No, not in the language.
Poor people used to live in slums. Now the economically disadvantaged occupy substandard housing in the inner cities. And they're broke. They're broke. They don't have a negative cash flow position. They're fucking broke. Because a lot of them were fired. Fired. Management wanted to curtail redundancies in the human resources area. So many people are no longer viable members of the workforce. Smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that.
Maybe that's what's going on.
We were warned about it in
We've been warned.
Numerous sci-fi books and other comedians.
It's almost become a trope to even refer to 1984.
Yeah.
Because the language is being changed so often.
Well, that euphemisms, another term, a synonym for that is
and
doublespeak.
Is a form of euphemisms as well.
Double plus good.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Uncold.
Okay, but it's all happening, and it's bound to happen.
War is peace.
It's going to occur. We can't, just because we can identify that it's occurring, we're not going to stop it.
We've been at peace the entire time we've been at war. Isn't that weird?
That is ironic.
For a long time. I mean, honestly, it's 2021.
Yeah.
We started up with Iraq and all that. I mean, way back, the original, but the after 9/11, we've been pretty much at war since then in some place or another. And yet, our country's been at peace.
Well, Vietnam was just a conflict. We didn't even want to call it a war.
Well, see, there you go. Ta-da.
Yeah.
Euphemism.
Well, I know the government always does.
It was a
government and advertising are the two entities that perpetuate this, I think, the most.
Yes.
That's damaging people, individuals, and groups. Because, I mean, if a student says something, I don't ridicule them and say, God, you're an idiot. I change my language. I soften what I say, and like, well, that's an interesting way to say that. Okay, does anybody else have an idea? You know, I wouldn't ridicule them for not giving a correct answer or those sort of things.
No, you just say.
So, but that's the appropriate use of
I like to look at them and scream, wrong.
Yes, but with a funny tone.
Yes.
So that they recognize that you're just being silly.
That is absolutely incorrect. Good job.
Good job. I'm proud of you. And most kids would be able to accept that kind of
if you
humiliation.
do it right,
if you do it, yes, exactly. But
thank God. That's why I can't wear masks, people. I can't make the face I need to be able to say that.
To be able to, yes, I know. It's very difficult to get in front and do that with that, because you need the tone, and that's the point. Euphemisms require tone.
Well, I've decided that since I'm still fat, that I wish to be called horizontally challenged.
Horizontally challenged?
Yeah, I don't know how that actually
translates. I know. You're looking at that stupid list.
Yeah, but there's so many good ones on it.
Well, armed intervention, right? Military attack.
Sure. Adult beverages. I use that one all the time now when I'm talking in front of kids.
Yes. You're a little thin on top, Mr. Long.
Little?
A little.
American murder logs.
So
they're all over Louisiana.
They're all over Louisiana. They're called trees.
No, they're alligators.
Here they're trees.
Those are vertical American murder logs.
So, again, political entities, people who are in control, advertisers who are absolutely in control, marketers, absolutely. Because
that's what social media exists for.
If you are not a consumer, then you are no good. What good are you in this modern society?
Correct.
Thank you, 12 Monkeys.
Give us your money.
Give us your money. Absolutely, because that's what you are. So people on individual levels curtailing their language, using euphemisms to help their communication with somebody is absolutely necessary, as you know, trying to find harmony and balance in society. When political and advertisers and marketers do it, they tend to do it with a different...
Well, they are looking to gain a dollar.
Yes, they have a different motivation for it. It's not harmony and peace in society. In fact, I think they want to divide us more.
Well, they wanted, I think now language, going back to euphemisms and talking about the fact that some euphemisms you can use around your family, some around your friends, some in general public, but there are euphemisms that you would use with your friends that you would never.
You shouldn't.
In a public forum.
You shouldn't.
Well, no, there's everybody should limit their speech dependent upon the room.
Or alter it or choose
and
different things.
And if you don't know the room, you go to the highest common denominator.
Sure.
So you don't look like an idiot.
So yes, you don't immediately use curse words but I don't think all people temper themselves, and I don't think you're taking anything away from yourself by doing that. I think you're enhancing your presence.
Well, you're not going to be welcomed into that group, whatever group it is.
Yeah, and if you're
in the end, that's how we're built. But here's the problem: by using language to continue to subdivide us up into ever smaller groups.
Yes, little subgroups.
What you're going to end up having are bunches of little groups that cannot communicate effectively,
yes,
because things you use in your group won't work in their group, and so you'll be ostracized.
You'll be out, yeah.
Or
it's like the Tower of Babel.
Or made an unperson.
Right. Then we all don't communicate with each other on a harmonious level.
Right. If you say to someone, "Hey, I see you're a little thin on top." Well, if that person's bald,
and you're not friends,
they're aware of it.
Yeah, they know.
2, if you don't know them, that's an insult, flat out.
Yes.
But if you're with a buddy and you say, "Dude, man, you are getting thin
and he's your
on top,"
friend, it's okay.
It's going to be okay. Yet he probably feels a little bit of the same thing as the other person, but because you're friends or part of the same group,
softens it.
It softens it enough
and makes
for you
it
to
acceptable.
Accept it.
Yeah, it's not a taboo subject.
And
if you know as a friend it's going to hurt him, then it is a taboo subject, and you should alter what you say. And if you don't, are you truly a friend? Or are you using it for some power over that person? Because not all friends are really friends.
Well, again, how do you know?
I don't know.
How do you really know if your friend is your friend? I mean, that's just by examples,
respect,
and mutual respect, and I suppose in the end having some type of connection,
a bond.
Yeah.
And they're trying to sever the bonds and using the language
and to
do that.
Compartmentalize groups.
Yeah. All right. But some euphemisms are just fun, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because all that's really weighty and a lot to think about, and we can't change any of it.
No, we can't do it.
We can't do that. So we just accept and watch what goes on.
The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation. The Pentagon actually measures nuclear radiation in something they call sunshine units. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight?
What do freedom fighters fight?
And that's the government at work, and they do it constantly. They're constantly changing the language.
Yes, and they love acronyms.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that...
That's another show.
Oh.
we got too many. What are some of your favorites? You got any favorite euphemisms before we circle back to Brandeis University
Brandeis.
and their insanity?
I have the same list you have, and they're fun, and I highlighted a couple, but I also have a list of songs, 10 songs with titles or lyrics that don't necessarily mean what you think they mean.
Oh, I'm sure there's a bunch of those.
Well, I only have 10, so...
Okay, well...
And I don't find all 10 to be all that interesting, but there are a couple that struck me as...
All right. D-Long, give it to me.
All right. So first one, I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight. You remember that song?
Yeah.
Yes. I just died in your arms. Okay. The band is called Cutting Crew. I know the song well, but I really didn't remember the name of the group, Cutting Crew.
I remembered this song and didn't care.
Okay. Thank you, dear. So what they really mean by dying in your arms, apparently the band member, Nick Van Eddy, came up with the lyrics while he was having intercourse. Yes. Sex, better known as sex. So dying, and he thought that the French phrase...
I'm triggered, no.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Are you going to do anything because you're triggered? Is there a consequence for it, or are you just going to say you're triggered?
I'm just going to say it because it's not true.
Oh, okay. I see. I understand what you're doing. For humor?
Sure.
For humor. There we go. Dying, the French phrase, la petite mort, a little orgasm is a little death.
A little death.
Yeah, so I died in your arms tonight. So he died. Didn't say how many times he died.
Give me another.
Ticket to Ride by the Beatles. She's got a ticket to ride.
I thought that one was interesting. I like this story.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny too. So what it really means is... Ticket to Ride is reportedly the clever phrase used that John Lennon came up with in reference to the medical card that German prostitutes carried. She was clean. If she had a ticket to ride, she was clean. She's a clean sort.
She's got a ticket to ride.
Yeah. Heart-shaped box by Nirvana.
Well, we all knew that one, though.
What? That the heart-shaped box was Courtney Love's vagina?
Well, I didn't know it was Courtney Love, but...
Courtney's vagina.
Whatever. Really?
I don't know. I don't know if it was heart-shaped, but, man, that woman had some power over him, didn't she?
She stood over him and killed him. Allegedly.
You better add that. We all can't just say Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain.
No, I didn't say that.
Tutti Frutti, that was, and I actually heard this on another podcast and was disappointed because I said, I found that.
I found it first.
Little Richard, Tutti Frutti, Rudy, that was not the original lyrics, right? This song is actually...
Well, the original song, as I've learned, was in fact Tutti Frutti, and it was done in the 1940s about, get this, Tutti Frutti ice cream.
Tutti Frutti ice cream.
For reals.
Well, that's what we all would have thought, right, that it would have been about.
Yeah, but Little Richard, being Little Richard, and having his early alternate gender identity issue.
He was bold. He was a...
Well, they didn't let him really get into it much, but anyway, he had a...
You could tell.
You could tell.
You could tell.
And they did it was, I think really what was going on is they took the song and created a dirty song from it and did a parody.
And then later
when it was discovered that people wanted to hear the parody and they wanted to make it a hit and clean it up, then they went back to
Okay, so
Frutti.
Originally it was Tutti Frutti Good Booty.
Yeah. And it was not referring to the shape of a booty.
No.
It was referring to an act.
And yes.
But I'm not going to give you a euphemism.
Wait, do I have a euphemism for it?
I'm sure we do.
Oh, wait.
I'm sure we do.
I want to find it on my list.
Well, we didn't want him to be the boy in the barrel. How's that?
The boy in the barrel. All right, I'll take that one. Let's see. Wannabe by the Spice Girls. No, that's not interesting. Peacock by Katy Perry.
Okay.
Boy, that one wasn't hard to figure out, was it?
No.
Not at all.
Well, I'll give you...
you got something?
I got some here
all
quick that I thought were fun. Some of them George Carlin would perfectly understand. Embarking on a journey of self-discovery is jobless.
Oh, I thought it was about masturbation.
No.
Okay, you throw euphemisms at me and let me say what they mean.
Oh.
Maybe that was a way to do it.
Here you go. To engage in safe sex.
To engage in safe sex.
That's the euphemism.
Oh, for masturbation?
Hey, there you go.
Okay.
How about, let's see, some of these are horrible. Ethnic cleansing is genocide.
Well, yeah.
That's what we call it now.
Okay, you didn't have to...
How about finger pants?
Finger pants?
Finger pants.
Hang on. Finger pants. Oh, I'm not even sure what to guess for that one.
Gloves.
Oh, good God.
I told you I didn't say they were great. I said they were interesting. Horizontal gymnastics, having sex.
Sex, intercourse, okay.
A trash panda. We know what that is. Oh my gosh!
Oh, you better tell the audience.
Oh, it's a raccoon.
Yeah,
it's a trash panda. You saw it, Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know.
I don't understand some of these though. I'm like, who did this?
Who did this list?
Well,
maybe you need to credit the website.
We got negative patient outcome.
Death.
Okay. We have nose flavors.
Nose flavors. Boogers?
Smells.
Oh, God.
Partially proficient. Not qualified.
Oh, average. I was thinking average.
We have several that are actually kind of common. Postmenopausal.
50 plus?
Old.
Old
woman.
Yeah.
It's an old woman.
Thank you.
We have
Mimi. Old woman. Mimi.
Relocation centers.
I got nothing.
It's a prison camp.
Oh, good God.
Well, it is.
Okay.
All right.
I was thinking ghetto, but I didn't want to say it. It has a negative connotation.
Try this one. Slithery tube dude.
Slithery tube dude?
Yep.
The boudin maker?
No, it's a snake. That's not a good euphemism.
No, a euphemism has to be for
it should be something taboo.
Well, it should be something negative. Yes, you're renaming something negative with something more positive. A snake isn't negative. Well, actually, I guess
we would agree that abortion has
it's negative.
A negative. Well, they have a great euphemism for that. It's called terminating a pregnancy.
Oh my God. That's the euphemism?
That's the euphemism.
Well, okay. You know what? We need to bring it there's the segue. Let's go right back to Brandeis.
Because you know what, folks?
Because
most of those are not actually euphemisms.
No.
Because they're he's well fed. He's fat.
He's fat. Well, that means you're rich and wealthy. That's a positive in most cultures. So Brandeis's Park.
Wait, I have one.
What?
And folks, if you'd like to call in and explain this to us, the thatched ATM.
Well, they can just Google it. Everything's on the Urban Dictionary.
Well, that's true.
And that helps me, actually. I use the Urban Dictionary. I thought thatched ATM was a little bit off, too. Who came up with that bull?
I don't know.
All right. So, no, but I'm taking it back to the beginning because that's where we were headed.
Yes, we're going to go back. Let's talk about, hang on, I'll bring it back to Brandeis. Hang on. But we got to talk about why we looked at Brandeis University.
Because it was a recent story.
Yes, but the person is why it made news.
Oh, yes.
And it's a liberal author.
There you are labeling people.
Well, she is. She's avowed. She says it.
Okay.
Joyce Carol Oates, who is a liberal writer who's been nominated for a Pulitzer a ridiculous number of times, has never won, but has won all kinds of other awards, including O. Henry Awards and several others. And she actually got out and wrote an article criticizing the oppressive language list that was posted by Brandeis University that has all kinds of really strange words that are warning words. They're trigger words.
Trigger words. But don't use trigger.
But don't use the word trigger. So it published it on its website. She read it and she tore into it, talking about things that just make no sense.
This makes none.
Well, one of the things she said was, what is strange is, and I'm going to use one word that she says before we get into their list. What is strange is that while the word picnic is suggested for censorship because it evokes in some people lynchings of black persons in the U.S., the word lynching is not itself censored. Well, one, I'm trying to figure out how picnic
the picnic.
Has
I wrote that on my copy of the story too. Picnic.
And she said, "What shall be doled out for the faculty member who utters the word picnic?
Yeah.
Will he lose tenure? He or she? Will there be a public flogging or self-flagellation?
Exactly. What are the consequences?
So that got us on that, and so the offensive language list they actually broke it down. This Park group you were talking about.
Yes.
And that was where it got really interesting. The fact that they have like subdivided into violent language. Yeah,
there are 5 categories of violent language, identity-based language, language that doesn't say what we mean, culturally appropriative language.
Say what you mean what you say.
And person-first alternative language. And that was their point. They don't want us to use euphemisms, vagueness, or anything that doesn't say what we mean.
Right.
So picnic, does that not say what we mean? If I look up the definition of picnic, nowhere does it say that it's also connected, because I had no idea that white people used to go to lynchings and picnic while they watched.
Yeah, I don't get it. The word picnic, first of all, if you tell me
I have a
that you're offended
degree,
by the word
and
picnic,
I've not read that.
One, don't get in my group. Just go away.
Yeah, we're not going to get along.
If you're offended by the word picnic, then we will not get along. No. Guaranteed.
And I don't want to. That will be.
And I'm not going to make the effort.
A disharmony in my life. You would have disharmony in your life too if we tried to interact.
Well, I'm just not going
intimately.
Picnic.
Okay, well that was weird. And
so let's go into it.
I'm sure it's there somewhere in history.
Let's go into some of the violent language first.
Okay, so violent.
And you already discussed one of them at the beginning.
Yeah, killing it. Mm-hmm.
Great job. Awesome. You're killing it.
Yeah, but again, there's tone.
But here's the thing. If you tell somebody, man, you're really killing it, there is no earthly explanation of them thinking you mean to actually kill something.
Maybe they're a soldier or perhaps a serial killer. They've accidentally killed somebody. Those categories, maybe they might be offended.
So in a Lifetime movie, what would happen is the boss would say to the serial killer who's working in an office,
"Yes,
man, you're really killing
Dexter,
it."
You're
and then
really
there would be this music, and he would have a fade out into the actual killing that he committed.
He feels bad. He's having an emotional moment.
And their explanation is, if someone is doing, I should do it. if someone is doing well, there's no other way there are many more ways to say it than without equating it to murder.
Who are you doing?
I don't know.
A Karen?
A person who actually would get
who works
offended
for
by,
the Prevention Advocacy and Resource Center. That's
a person
what
who
you
would get upset about the word killing it.
So,
I really appreciate you saying that I'm doing a good job, but there's other ways.
I find your language offensive, sir, or your intonation. Yes,
my intonation.
Your intonation. Take a stab at, take a shot at. Trigger warning. Go off the reservation.
Well, that one has been around a while. I first heard about that years ago, actually.
Okay,
but it was because of indigenous people. Notice I didn't use the word Indian or Native American.
That's all labeled as violent language because they needlessly use imagery of hurting someone or something.
Right.
So you couldn't say half-cocked.
But think about what the term actually meant. Go off the reservation is going outside a designated area.
Yeah, your area.
And everybody knows that a reservation was a thing that had a designated boundary.
So now we say stay in your lane.
Yes, same thing. Stay in your lane.
And now it's just social conversation. Yeah. It's not, but that's not going to be negative. So I guess maybe that's a better euphemism.
So in class, you should never say rule of thumb.
Yeah, rule of thumb. And then there's identity-based language.
What? There's more?
Well, we've been practicing that for several decades now.
We've been forced to practice that.
Yes, we have.
For
He,
a long
she,
time.
his, her. When I teach pronouns, for the last 10 years, maybe a little longer, actually, probably more like 15, we shifted from just being his to, if you want to not identify gender, his or hers.
I want to address one of them here was the
he, she,
the gender exclusive language, like saying you guys or ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
When there are other genders in the room, right? And I actually had a student one time that said, "Why do you always say you guys? You know there are girls in the class."
Yeah, and
my answer
I say
was,
that too.
Do you think that I am not aware that there are a multitude of various genders in our classroom?
Are you saying that I'm not culturally?
Yeah, well, I did it.
Yeah.
I used that. And I said, look, when I say you guys, I just mean you as a collective group of people.
And I addressed that too at the beginning there because I know I'm going to do it.
I have to.
It's part of my lexicon.
It just is.
So I will
and no
say
insult intended.
I will absolutely in a classroom be situationally aware of who I'm dealing with, and I will absolutely curtail my language.
Well, I like the fact that an alternative to you guys is, of course, y'all.
Yes. So I will use that as well.
So my thing is it's regional.
It is that there are the regional phrases, I'm sure.
And again, that goes back to groupings. So you can't, but look, if you come to a place and say you guys, you run the risk of offending a whole bunch of people in a room if they're all geared toward the idea that you guys is gender exclusive.
Well, but that's you being aware of where you're at. If you walk into a room full of people you do not know in any way and you have to address the entire group, then hello, everybody. Hello, excuse me.
Hello, Homo sapiens.
No, hello, human beings.
You're probably wondering why I called all of you here
today. And if you are an alien and I left you out, I'm so sorry. Please forgive my error.
Excuse me, my name is Meepsorp. I feel offended.
So, of course, in their list of offensive or oppressive language, we have to deal with the one that's such trouble for our culture anyway. The term African American should also stop being used.
Right. We're not supposed to use that one anymore.
Black is
according
listed,
to Brandeis University.
Black is listed as a possible alternative, as not all black people are from Africa or America. Now, as a child of the 70s, my friends were black and I was white. So I had to readjust. And for a number of years, I used African American, and then I switched into people of color.
Well, we were forced
in public,
socially,
in public discourse
American
with people I don't know. But with my normal people, I just say black.
But I can remember people being upset about the term African American because black people did not all come from Africa.
Yes.
And yet when they said that then, they were being racist.
Yes. So it's shifted.
And it shifted when I was a kid from the word colored to black.
Well, I never used colored.
Well, I didn't either. The only reason I even heard the term is there was a radio station in Kansas City. KPRS, Colored People's Radio Station.
Yes, and just reading. I mean, when you read things from the past.
In their early days, when they would actually
come across.
specifically market to that group. And so now it's black.
People of color is considered oppressive, so we are not supposed to use that. As the center said, if you are talking about a specific racial group, name the group you are talking about, right? Because they want you to not be vague, so we just need to say black. Right. So is that how we're going to?
However, if you're dealing with a group of people who have multiple ethnicities, BIPOC. Capital BIPOC.
So do you just say the word BIPOC?
Well, I don't.
Or the acronym?
I don't know how I would use
I don't know how I would use that either, because I wouldn't want to say each letter out, like when you do LGBT.
And this is a term, it's ableist language. That's the one thing that really got me.
Yeah.
Was the idea, for instance, of like appointments. An ableist form of that is the walk-in.
Yes, but
it's a walk-in.
You can't say that.
But that's marginalizing people who can't walk.
Who can't walk in.
So you have to say a drop-in. But then does that mean that we should carry people in? And
I don't know. So we're so far back to Harrison Bergeron. I can't even. We can't make it all equal. We can't make it all sterilized. It can't be.
We can't do it.
The language is too complex and varied, and human beings are.
By the way, BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, and People of Color.
So that you include all, so that you're acknowledging their background.
But
I don't need people to acknowledge my French background. I
existed.
Yeah, I'm just.
You don't have to acknowledge that I existed. I'm standing
funny
here.
Thing about the story is, in April of 2015, the university tried to raise awareness of microaggressions against Asian students. So they were ahead of the time,
ahead of the curve.
Already doing that. But the backlash from the Asian students on campus had shut it all down. They stopped doing it. The association and the president apologized to the student body and to anyone who was triggered or hurt by the content of the microaggressions. So
let's talk about person first language.
7 years later, they're trying it again.
They're doing it. Let's keep hammering away. This one is really interesting because I find that it's really just a simple twisting of English to satisfy some end that makes no sense. This is what Brandeis says. Person-first language frames people's activities, attributes, and more as part of the person rather than the whole person. Person-first language helps us resist defining people by just one thing. It is important to note that some people do claim these identities and labels, however, in which case we suggest mirroring their language. Okay.
So just be a chameleon and adjust to your...
And here's the oppressive version.
Okay.
Victim. Now it should be person who has experienced X, whatever that is.
Trauma. Oh, you can't just say trauma. You have to be specific.
Correct.
We can't be vague.
Survivor. Person who has been impacted by X. Fill in the blank.
Person who has...
I am not a survivor of Hurricane Laura. I am a person who has been impacted by...
I have been impacted by hurricanes.
But here's the thing. Let's say, for hypotheticals, that I'm a survivor of Hurricane Laura, but everyone else in my family died. Well, he's been impacted by Hurricane Laura. That really takes all of the emotion right out of it.
Yeah.
He lost his family in
Hurricane. Then you're back to what George Carlin said.
And then we say lost his family.
Lost his family, yeah.
Right. Okay. Disabled.
Not his entire family died or were killed. They were murdered by a hurricane.
Murder hurricane. Murder wind.
Death pocket.
It's a murder wind. That's what that is.
We're making light of it now. Stop it.
Murder low. A disabled person is now a person with a disability. Abusive relationship. That's oppressive.
Okay.
In a relationship with an abuser. It's exactly the same thing.
It is exactly the same thing. It's also implying that the person that's in that relationship is...
Well, they're using a definition to satisfy the opposite He's an addict.
Yes.
He's an addict. Person with substance use disorder.
It takes the personal out of it.
Exactly. It's harming the language.
Yes.
Because you're not being direct. And it's all in this mythical idea that somehow we have to be protective of every single
it's sterilizing it.
Feelings. We can't cause any discomfort.
Don't ruffle anybody's emotional psyche.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it. Well, then we just don't need to leave the house, and you need to stay off the computer.
I found out that, finally, I've also found out that spirit animal, you know that thing? You see it on Facebook.
Yes.
What's your spirit animal?
A bear.
Well, that's oppressive. No.
Is it oppressive to the animal?
Alternative, favorite animal or animal I would most like to be. Why? Says Brandeis University. In some cultural and spiritual traditions, spirit animals refer to an animal spirit that helps guide and or protect a person through a journey. Equating this with an animal you like to be strips the term of its significance.
For the people who actually believe that. For the people of that culture.
Animists.
Okay, so if you believe in guardian angels and your guardian angel has a name, then...
Well, I suppose it would.
Yeah, I would suppose.
Don't use it.
No, don't use it. Don't say it. It has power. It's a taboo word.
Don't use it.
You know, it indicated that taboo words were only taboo to people who were primitive. They used the word primitive.
I'd like to go back to using straight language for most things, just really specific, mostly. Mm-hmm. I don't mind euphemisms.
Being kind when you need to be and saying the right things. Look, or not saying some things.
I will call you whatever you want to be called.
I have made those mistakes. I uttered the F word at a dinner once with other women and was just, I was being myself.
You
not
said
real.
feather.
I said fruity.
Oh.
And I upset one of the attendees greatly. And
yes,
she was direct with me and told me that I ruined her entire evening, and I was her ride home.
Yeah. So then you had to bring her home after uttering the F word that ruined.
And I mean, I made a mistake. I made a social error. I recognized it after the fact. I have continued to use the F word, but I try to be a little more selective.
You say the F word?
Often.
Huh.
Yes.
I never noticed.
I know. Well, no, because we're of a similar mindset.
Yeah. So, you know what? I do my job almost every day.
I don't use it at my job. No, I have situational awareness most of the time.
I've never actually uttered the F word.
Oh, no, in
class.
School? No, me either. I've used some light curses, pissed off. My 8th graders, that was always startling to them. Damn or hell.
I've used those.
Yeah, I think I've said those.
I said piss one time.
I've used some in reading text that might have had language.
In fact, when I was talking about Andrew Jackson in class one time, and I said after he was shot in the chest, he was pissed off and killed the other man.
Yeah, right.
which is in fact true.
William the Bastard, you know.
Yeah.
So in those kind of cases,
like
but situational awareness. In that case, I guess I misread the room.
Yeah,
I misread
or at least
the room.
that person in the room. And isn't that the problem? If we keep doing this, what's to become of society? Are we just going to have lots and lots and lots of little splinter groups where you guys all have a language you understand?
You said that before, right? We're back to the Tower of Babel idea.
Yes, it's crazy.
And then we're not in harmony again.
Politics is doing it. They're scrubbing our language all the time. Comedians know
it. And forcing us to change.
Well, it's making things softer. You know what I mean?
Well,
is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it is. I think it creates more animosity. I think it makes people angry in some cases.
I think we dehumanize things when we're not more direct. If we come up with things that take out the actual, like George Carlin said, shell shock says what it is.
It is.
But PTSD doesn't even have any emotion attached to it in the same way.
And encompassing all types of trauma under one umbrella.
And we're surrounded with advertisers are the worst.
Oh, yeah.
All natural. It's all natural. It's in a box. It's all natural. It's good for you. Mm-hmm. And as I've always said, a dog turd is all natural. Yeah. It's all natural. I'm not going to eat it. And all natural means nothing. And think about it. We have pre-owned
but
cars.
Are they trigger words for us? Because what they're trying to trigger is not your anger, but they're trying to trigger your wallet, your spending dollar.
Well, or they're trying to make you think differently. I liked.
Well, yeah, they're trying to get you to buy.
Yeah, exactly right. But they're also trying to control you using
and now we've just stepped it up another level by making companies responsible.
Back to social score. Social score for companies. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. That's happening in China to people and companies.
Yes.
Now companies are obeying it, and they're doing it by the way they're doing it is they're leveraging investment dollars in a way that if you don't do what these people have set up, mm-hmm. in the world, the Great Reset, which I could get into for an hour.
Not now.
No, not now, because we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But they are leveraging investment dollars to force companies to do things that are socially correct,
yes.
according to their viewpoint.
Yes, and then that's really the question of everything: who's in charge?
And so they change words and change meanings, and it's all about semantics. It's to basically try to satisfy this imagined thing.
It all comes down to the almighty yen.
The dollar. It's the dollar.
All
For
about
now.
the money.
Yeah, it's going to crash.
It's going to, yeah, maybe so. And in the meantime, so we really are Black Mirror, Idiocracy, and well, everything that South Park's told us in the last 20 plus years.
Yeah, it's and I'll use a couple things here before we wrap it up.
All right.
George Orwell, political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder sound respectable and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind. That's what euphemisms can do.
Yeah.
The power of a euphemism.
Exactly.
We can laugh at it. We certainly can laugh at it.
We can switch it around and make it a dis-euphemism.
We can make it
make it bad.
Yes,
you know,
we
the
can.
Pigs, not the cops, not the...
Because now we have euphemistic phrases.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly. In fact, individual euphemism words have become full-on diatribes, and it's all euphemistic, the whole thing. The Texas Department of Agriculture, it combated child obesity while lifting the ban on deep fat fryers in public schools. That's euphemistic action.
Yes.
That is euphemistic action.
I'm so glad they did that to help kids not be fat.
Yes, nothing slims a child down like healthy fried potatoes.
And hot dogs. Our hot dogs.
And then finally, and I'm going to leave it with this one and then we'll wrap it up. Harry Truman. He got tired of political doublespeak. He's from Missouri. I have a lot of respect for Harry Truman. And this is his quote. I have appointed a secretary of semantics, a most important post. He is to furnish me with $40 to $50 words. Tell me how to say yes and no in the same sentence without a contradiction. He is to tell me the combination of words that will put me against inflation in San Francisco and support it in New York. He is to show me how to keep silent and say everything. You can very well see how he can save me an immense amount of worry.
He was a prophet. He saw the writing on the wall.
Political doublespeak.
That's where we were going. Yeah,
that is where we were going. So there you go. The power of euphemisms.
The power of euphemisms.
And euphemistic phrases and euphemistic actions.
And when you have lots of your own personal euphemisms between you and your tribe, people don't like that.
Right. That's what we call an
find
inside
you and,
joke.
Yeah, and people find you annoying when you do that, especially when you drink and do that. That's just my observation.
I'm still a big fan of the crass euphemisms. Cool. So there you go.
Happy 1 year anniversary.
Happy 1
long
year.
in the boot.
That was a horn. That's terrible.
I don't know. Maybe it sounded good. You shouldn't apologize.
Hooray. Huzzah. Vivat.
Zounds.
All right. It's been a year. All right. So there you go. Euphemisms and language and political language and,
that kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff.
Be aware of what you say.
Yeah.
We're all seeking balance.
Say what you mean. Mean what you say. Cause no harm. And I think you might be all right most of the time.
Most of the time. You will make mistakes.
Read the room.
It's okay.
Read the room.
You will survive. That relationship may not, but you will survive.
That's it. All right. So again, longintheboot@gmail.com or tripdub longintheboot.com or 337-502-9011. And we will be more than happy to
communicate with you.
Yeah, we enjoy that, actually. And I might even get you to call in, and we'll talk on a phone, and then I'll put you on the air. Maybe you have something to say.
Oh, and shout out again to Deputy Krista West. Just
shout out again, yeah, man.
Do fantastic things.
Yes, that's right. If you're gonna be in the doghouse, you could do worse. I'll tell you what.
There you go.
No, Krista West is doing a great thing, getting all these little puppies taken care of,
and cats this time,
and cats,
cats too. Yeah.
Oh, and hedgehogs.
And our grandkids absolutely loved Fact Checker Bella and Otto.
Yeah, they've got
and
fans.
And they really enjoyed their time with the kids.
They did, and so did we.
And so did we.
Yep.
All right.
And even their parents were okay.
Yeah, that was all.
But those grandkids.
So there was a little sunshine here in Southwest Louisiana for the last month.
That's right. Well, they showed up and it stopped raining, so that helped.
No doubt, and that's true.
So
all right.
All right, folks, we're going to see you again in 2 weeks on the Long in the Boot podcast. Y'all take care.